Now this one's number 32. That is a new entry. It's been puzzling me. I've been looking at the chart of L versus D ratio, which is the length versus the dome height, all the data. And while I was doing that, this other one just showed up. And I used the shell pattern from older videos to identify them. And that's number 11. Okay, this is a new entry. It's Gulf Coast Box Journal number 32. And we went through and compared it versus all other ones in the study. This is actually a brand new entry. What you do is measure the mass, measure the dome height with this big caliper, measure the width of the shell, measure the length. And some of the parameters, like the length of the winther, are a little bit, they can vary because the animal gets chewed on, and you get where the length will vary. It gets shorter as it gets ground down. So here's the data. Mass is 726 grams. Length of shell 156. Dome 75. L to D ratio 2.08. No undercut. Has many spots. So the ideal way is to match these by the shell pattern. Sometimes they have a distinctive notch due to an accident, a mower or something chewed on it. Compared this versus some other ones that I've cataloged here. What I do is I take preliminary data and I look up the length in the dome, go to my chart here, 75 up, 154. So looked at number 4, 8, 21, 30, 20, and number 9 and 18. It's not number 4 because it has a huge notch. And it compared the shell pattern here, number 21. It's not that. It has a different pattern than number 8 or 18 or 15 or 27. And it's not number 30 or 24 or 19. So look at all these. It's not any of those. And the pattern can kind of change as it gets rubbed with time, so you got to be careful. I look at screenshots from other videos and I compare that. So I don't like to just reassign a new number till I make sure it's a unique entry. Then what I do is I go look at ones that are younger here, because with time they get higher dome height, they get larger. It's not number 12 because it's usually in the backyard, plus the shell's completely all chewed up a couple of years ago. Here's a 15. I think this is a different entry for 12 here. It's not number 15. I compared the shell pattern with that. Compared the shell pattern with 24. And then also these two. So with time they go up on the curve. Now this L to D ratio is the length to diameter. Males tend to be up in this region where they have a high length to the dome height. Females tend to be down here. So you've got the ones up in this region are males. And you have a couple females in here that are a little bit different, that have a... But generally I don't find any females that have a, or males that have a real short length of the dome, high dome height. So I got a new entry there. It's a Gulf Coast box turtle. I also use this chart here, which is all the entries. I'm going to add the 32 here. I look at the last mass, the date it was done, dome length and width, L to D ratio. So I can rule out the ones that have, again, a way larger dome height or way longer length. Width is a little bit and length tend to get chewed on, so these parameters, if it's off a few millimeters shorter, it can be the same one, it's just been gnawed on. And so this chart here allows me to quickly rule out the ones that are way bigger. I can just, it's not going to be any of these above this swarm here. Another chart here is the turtle versus the year recovered. So some of them in the study here never been seen since the first, other ones that take a few years, like number 11 here was last seen, that was 1980, and it just popped up a few minutes ago. I'll put that in a different video. So this is the animal and this is the time. So sometimes they wander off to a different yard, they get run over. This one got hit by a mower, somebody else's yard. This one is so usual it's easy to tell which one it is. This one's got a big notch. This one here, 12's got a shell all got torn up. And there's a possibility some of these could be duplicates, but when you go back and check the shell pattern, it's totally way different. That rules out. The shell pattern's not going to radically change with time. It's kind of like a fingerprint. You could have some of it get obliterated, but you're not going to have 4 times the number of spots, or just a totally weird different pattern that doesn't match at all. Now there was a couple of these that were, I thought it might be, but if you looked at the underside here, one of them had kind of a zigzag on the hinge, which that one doesn't have. So there's a lot of clues you can use. In this particular area, the Gulf Coast box turtles females tend to have yellow arms right here.